Hi folks, this is your MWIS Fleeting View in association with Petzl. The week ahead promises some very similar weather patterns, with high pressure staying away toward the north and east or southeasterly winds prevailing. Not too much precipitation, a few snow flurries over eastern hills, and best of cloud breaks and sunshine will be found toward the northwest of the Highlands. Just like on this chart, some occasional fronts will try and make inroads from the southwest, but not really making too much progress even as we head further onwards into the weekend. We'll have a strong, gusty and chilly easterly wind which will really make it feel cold across the mountains. Air temperatures will stay below freezing across higher terrain, and in the wind will feel more like -10 to -15. Looking through the freezing level for the days ahead, and broadly above around 500 or 600 metres, terrain is extensively frozen and the air temperature stays below freezing. And even lower down on some lower middle slopes, the terrain is at least partly frozen, and there'll be some frost into the valleys and the glens where skies do clear overnight. Taking things onwards over a few days forwards, and that situation stays fairly similar. Subtle variations later in the week may just mean that some western mountains will see temperatures in a few spots just lift to freezing or above, and particularly Wales, some less cold air getting in here, perhaps leaving the temperature more broadly just above freezing to higher slopes. But elsewhere we see very little change, just a few pockets toward northwest Scotland where some downslope warming will occur and temperatures will just be that bit higher, and that continuing story of pushing that less cold air in just starts to filter further northwards through into the weekend. So Northern England and Wales generally a few degrees milder, and terrain not so extensively frozen, but partly frozen across the higher tops is still going to be your story. And into Sunday, that may be milder air just getting a bit further into western Scotland, but across the central and more eastern parts of the Highlands, that freezing level staying rather low. As far as snow cover on the mountain is concerned, well, what you've got now will stay very similar in most places through this week, with a hardened, consolidated, icy coverage across higher terrain, and some occasional flurries just topping up very locally, small amounts of dustings of snow, but nothing of any substance really. Heading into the weekend, that story stays similar. Just a hint on one or two forecast models that some snowfalls may develop a bit further into the Highlands if a front does push further in. That detail is uncertain though at this stage, with just the scope for some snowfalls amounts looking likely small though. The overall weather story is fairly familiar again, with that east by southeasterly flow and areas of cloud extensive across more eastern facing hill groups, some southeastern spots in the Highlands fairly extensive as well. Further west you go and northwest the cloud breaks up, and sunshine always best around the northwestern coasts of Scotland. Across Wales, wind speed a bit gustier, those gusty conditions in places around the Highlands as well, but those wind speeds will just vary from place to place during the days ahead. On Friday, a front having a go at pushing into Wales, unlikely to get too far, may just give some patchy light rain toward the far southwest of Wales, but unlikely anything further. One or two local flurries or drizzly showers on lower slopes across the eastern side of Scotland, the eastern side of the Pennines at times, but otherwise broadly dry. That front toward the west just trying to push up the west coast of Scotland late on Friday, but that again will fizzle out, so any early patchy bits and pieces of light rain or sleet around a few slopes will fade, and Saturday is very familiar again with a southeasterly flow and the best of brightness toward the northwest of the Highlands, areas of cloud elsewhere. A front again around Wales may just bring some rather damp conditions and some rain and possibly some sleety wet snow over some of the hills if temperatures just stay cold enough. I think that may just turn more damp as the temperature is lifting, and that front is the one that we're trying to push northwards into Sunday, which gives the potential for that snow we were just mentioning, but that really depends how far north it pushes, and it could just be again fizzling out as that pushes northwards, and we just persist with that similar southeasterly airflow, some grey conditions and damp around the southeastern Highlands, and better brightness further northwest. Looking at temperatures onwards into next week, and this is the anomaly in relation to the seasonal average, and for Scotland at least we're staying just on the chillier side, which means much of the higher mountain terrain will stay broadly frozen with air temperatures just below freezing point. England and Wales perhaps more likely on the milder side of average, where we just see temperatures maybe above freezing to the higher tops more of the time, and the potential for some much milder air trying to waft up from the Mediterranean on a southeasterly airflow through the week. The overall pressure pattern then is similar to this week, but just that slightly more south-southeasterly orientation of the isobars, giving us that less cold pattern compared to this week's more east or southeasterly airflow. Again though, Atlantic frontal systems and low pressure systems staying further out to the west and not really making too many inroads, so it could be that for a few more days forwards at least we see very little precipitation and an ongoing theme of areas of cloud covering more east and southeastern hill groups and best of breaks further towards the northwest. How soon any deeper and unsettled Atlantic systems get in is uncertain. Midweek and beyond just needs watching at this stage. All your local details for 3 days ahead, as always, can be found on our website. That is your Fleeting View in association with Petzl.